happy that um, I'm seeing good number of people on ground and more are still joining us. Welcome, guys. Welcome. So on board we have the big man himself, the big boss. Yeah, the big boss himself, Yves Kalume. I'm so sorry, brother. I'm failing out to read out that name. I understand you speak a lot of French. Actually, he's a French. Yeah, he's a French. He understands a lot of French. So yes, brother. I personally, I just learned French in class. So allow me say, bienvenue, monsieur. Yes, monsieur Jesus. Let me repeat my statement once again. Bienvenue, monsieur Yves. I don't know whether I've spoken that right. Merci d'avoir accepté le Christ. Que Dieu vous bénisse. Ah, bravo. I think I've tried my French right now. That's the only French I can manage. Merci beaucoup, monsieur. That's the only French I know. That's the only French. So without wasting time, let the Kotlin Google expert himself introduce himself and then tell us what he has for us at the moment as we wait for the rest of the guys to join us. I'm pleased, actually. He's a busy man, and when I reached out...
Can you give me 5 minutes? I'm coming.
It's okay, brother. So when I reached out to him via LinkedIn, he's a busy man, actually, very busy. I first got in touch with him during the Google Extended Student Edition, which we had organized at the National Innovation Hub, but he wasn't able to be on ground because he was in, I think, South Africa. I think he was in South Africa by that time, according to the sources, according to what I had heard from the rest of the guys. So he's a Google developer expert. I think you know what it takes for someone to be called a Google developer expert. It implies that he has exhausted everything that he has exhausted everything, and he has automatically, obviously, had a great impact to the community. That's both the student community and the community where he's staying himself, like all the way from... Okay, yeah, that's good. So, boss, allow me give you the floor. Allow me give you the floor so you can introduce yourself. Yeah. Mr. Kalume? Yes, you can.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, thank you. So let me just share my screen.
Yeah, let me stop mine here. Let me stop sharing.
What is this? This one. Right. Okay, so thank you for having me. First, I would like to thank Frank because we were supposed to do this since a while, but I couldn't make it. So I am grateful you you pinged me again. And today we are going to talk about Kotlin. We'll just try to get some introduction, and tomorrow we'll try to get deeper in and try to understand Kotlin and how it can help us build better applications, not only Android applications, but we can also build iOS applications and a lot of backends and even front-end applications. So I am Yves Kalume. My name is pronounced Yves, but even if you pronounce it with your English accent, it's not that bad. So I am from Congo. I hope you can hear my French accent. So bear with me. If you don't understand something or I mispronounce something, you can just open your mic and ask me to repeat. Actually, I work as an Android engineer at Monaco. We are a fintech company. We are helping Africans in Europe to have banking service without a lot of headache. So they can just download our application and use their passport to open a banking account and have a French IBAN. They can also do remittances. So that means they can do transfer to African countries. And right now we are building a new version of Monaco, which will help African at scale, like worldwide people to open bank account and receive their funds from different countries worldwide. So I am also a Google developer expert for Android, as Frank has already said. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can just copy this link, and yeah, I'll be happy to hear from you, and we can just discuss about tech and life. So I just give you like a few seconds so that you can copy and I can continue. Okay, great. So let's start by what's Kotlin actually. Kotlin is a modern programming language which is statically typed, and it was built to run on JVM. Right now, it is even running on the web and on iOS devices, and it is also fully interoperable with Java. And it was built to replace Java. It's actually used by more than 60% of professional Android developers to build Android applications. And the fun fact is that Kotlin was not meant for building Android applications. The JetBrains team built Kotlin just to make a better programming language than Java. They used to build their software with Java, and they had a lot of pain, so that they decided to build their own programming language, which will make a good developer experience. So this is the evolution of the Kotlin logo. You can see that they started with this I can say small cap, or I don't know what. And right now, this is the last known logo for Kotlin. And another fun fact is that Kotlin is named after an island in Finland. You can just try to see it on Google Map, and maybe you'll understand why they picked this as the Kotlin name. So why to use Kotlin? The first reason is that Kotlin is very expressive and concise. If you have built application using Java, you can see that it is a very verbose language. You need to write so many things in order to get just a basic application. And Kotlin is also safe. As I said, if you have used Java before that, you can see that the most known errors in Kotlin in Java is null pointer exceptions. That means people trying to access a variable which is already null, which is not initialized yet. And Kotlin brings safety for that. And it is also portable and compatible with different operating systems. And it is also convenient. It is well supported by IDEs like IntelliJ, Android Studio, and we can build Android applications with Android. But as I said, you can also build web applications and iOS applications and even desktop applications. And yeah, it runs on so many devices than Java, and it is lactose free, without sugar, and it is also gluten free. So these are jokes. And yeah, this is a simple hello world in Kotlin. You can see that you don't need to add a semicolon. You can just write your code without worrying about that. You can use semicolon to separate. You can use semicolon to separate different instructions on the same line, but you don't need to to hide them if you use a backline. So the basics of Kotlin, you just need a main functions to, this will be the entry point of your application. You just use print to print something, and you can also use println to print a word, a string, and get back to the to create a new line after that. So you just need that. This is a simple Kotlin hello world. But if someone asks you to build the same program using Java, you will see that you have to write many code. But I know that right now Java has evolved, and you can write also just with a function. So as I said, the main is an entry point. You can also have arguments to these functions. For now, I don't think they are necessary to be explained. And print, just print things to the standard output, which can be the terminal. And println break the line after that. And for variable declarations, you can use val or val, and you add you need to set the type, but you will see later that Kotlin can also omit the type because it has what we call a type inference. And var is for immutable variables, and val is for immutable variables. This helps us to have a safe program. And as I said, type can be inferred in most of the cases based on the value you will pass to your function. And also, like, yeah, as I said, assignments can be inferred. So this is an example of an int. So you will just assign numbers to this variable, and you can just create your variable and just assign the number. It will infer the type. But yeah, here the var can be reassigned. You can just set a new value to this variable without worrying. And if you create a type using a val, you need to set a value for that. So if you just declare a variable without assigning a value to this one, you need to set the type. And you can't update or modify the value inside an immutable variable. We also have a const modifier, which is necessary when you need to set a value which is already known at compile time. When I say at compile time, it means that when you are coding your application, it is not running yet. You need to set the variable for this one. You can, for example, you need to get the variable from user input. You can use const with that. And yeah, val is immutable, and const values uppercase for naming. This is just a convention to have a better difference between const and val. Okay. So we also have functions as in a regular programming language. To declare a functions, we have already seen the main function. You need the fun keywords, and you can pass as much parameters as you want with their type. You need also to specify the return type, and you will use the return instruction to return the value from your function. But you can also do that. As I said, Kotlin is a very concise programming language. You can omit the return value if you use the equal sign instead of the return instruction, and it will compute these instructions and return the value just after. And unit is for function that don't return anything, like this one, just print the value and it doesn't return any value. And you can omit the unit type, because if you don't return anything, you can just say that it is nothing. You don't need to use equal, you will just omit the unit type. Yeah, but if you want, you can also do that just to be even more concise. And we can use if for conditional expression. So this function is the same as this one. You can just omit the return type and use equal, and it will compute. And if like a is higher than b, you just return a. You don't need to add the return statement here. And you can use also one expression instead of using multiple if and if else. You can just use when and set the value inside the bracket and inside parentheses, and just if it match like the first value, will compute this first expression. So you can also add an else inside a one expression. Okay, you can also use like when with many, like you can have different types inside a when expression. So you can use when to check the type of an object. We'll see later, I think tomorrow, about something. So tomorrow we'll try to see about to learn about object-oriented programming. We will see that you can have type, and you can just try to check the type of your value or your object, and you can try to compute and to see if your variable match one of these two types, and you will just compute this expression. And yeah, when we are using conditional statement in programming, we can use these symbols, which are, I think, used in most of programming languages today, but you can also use an AND expression. So this is the same as this second one. So actually, I feel like I need to skip this part. We'll try to discuss about it later. And we can also use these two lines, or we can use the OR expression. It really depends of your programming styles, but I prefer this one because it is used in most of the programming language today. So if someone just take my code, you'll just understand it quickly. You can also use loops. So loops are used for repetitive operations. Let's suppose that you have a list of objects, a list of string, and you need to go through it and to print each element of this list. You'll just loop on the list and take the first item. So you will use the for keyword and the hint. This will directly assign the current item in this variable, and we just need to print it. You can also compute the indexes of elements. So this index will contain the index of the actual element. So we will just use the index property. So you can just print an element and get it by its index. And we can use we'll try also to discuss about this later, but you can also quickly get the index and the element directly by using this kind of special type, which is called it. For those who have already done Python, you know about tuple. I don't know how we pronounce it in English, like tuple. You'll just get like the index and the actual item. So type it is a kind of graph. And in Kotlin, you can also have labels to your loops. Let's say you have two nested loops in your code, and you need to break one of these loops, or you need to skip an iteration in your loops. So if you don't add this label, if you break, you'll break the inner loop. But if you want to break the parent loop, you can just assign a label to it, and you can break it by specifying this label inside the second loop. And we also have a kind of special type, which is called a range. Range helps us to just generate range, as its name suggests. You just have to, you can use actual loop, you can use a simple loop and use 2 points and specify two numbers, or they can also be strings like A and B or A and Z. It will compute all the alphabet, all the letters between A and Z. You can also do what we call decrementing by using down to. You can start from 9 and going down to 0, and you can also add a step. And as I said at the beginning, Kotlin is also known for being a safe language. If you have used Java before, you will see that people used to have to commit this mistake of trying to access a variable which is not initialized yet. So in Kotlin, you can define your type like this is a classic variable, but you can also say it may be null. And if something can be null, you can just access it like a regular one. You need to check if it is not null before printing it, for example, or doing any operation with it. And you can also have this, we call it a Elvis operator. So it will just try to assign this text, which is a nullable value, to this variable. And if this one is null, we'll just assign this one, the second part of the expression. And if you print when text is null, you'll print nothing to print. And now let's talk about the Elvis operator. So as I have already said, it will just compute the first, it will just do the first operation, and if the result is null, it will compute the second one. So this, if for example here we had a string, and also here we add a string, and if the first string was null, it will assign the second one. But in our case here, if this function return a null value, it will execute this second expression. This means that our function will return null as the result. And in this second case, it will just throw an exception, meaning like our value is null. And you can also do what we call a safe kill to avoid null pointer exception. Let's say in this function, like in this case, and our employee object has a department property, and this department property also has some values that can be null. Instead of just printing it like this without these operations, so if we print it without these operations, when the head, for example, or the name will be null, we'll get the null pointer exception. But Kotlin enforces you to use this operator, which is called a safe kill, like a safe operator, to tell the compiler that if I print and this value is null, don't throw the null pointer exception. Just print the null value. Or if you pass it to a function which don't take a nullable value, you will see there will be red lines. That means your code won't even compile. But with Java, your code will compile and throw an exception at runtime, that when your user is using your application. So with Kotlin, you are likely to discover most of your mistakes at compile time when you are building your application, instead of discovering them when the user is using your application. And this is one of the advantages. And you can also use this. There are several operators which help you to do what we call functional programming. For now, we can just talk about let. Let help you to run this one only if this value is not null. But if it is null, it won't run. And we also have these unsafe calls. So if you say that head will never be null, you can just tell to the compiler that my value will never be null. So if your function only accepts non-nullable value, you can tell the compiler, okay, I want to pass you this value, and I assure that it will never be null. But if it's null, you will discover the exception at runtime also. But I'll just advise you to avoid this one as much as we can. And we also have this kind of special way of doing things. You will just, we can use what we call string templating. So instead of doing concatenation with the plus operator, with Kotlin, you can just add this dollar symbol in front of your variable, and it will print its value. So you can also use this object, but I think it is two variables. This was just an example to show you. But if you need to print a value, you will just need to add the dollar symbol in front of this variable. And we also have what we call lambda expression, which are mostly used in functional programming. So in Kotlin, a function can also be treated as a value. We will just declare it as a variable. So this is my variable name. The name is Sam, but the type is a function. So the type of my variable, it is not an integer right now, or nor a string. It is a function which take two integers as parameters and return one integer. And this is the body of my function. So you can just declare it as a regular function, but you can also declare it as a variable. And in Kotlin, you can pass a function as an argument to a function, to another function. This other function will be called a high-level, high-order function. Maybe we'll talk about them later. And I feel like maybe we can also start talking a bit about object-oriented programming, but I feel like we'll get in depth tomorrow about that. So today I wanted just to discuss with you. You can see that this one was not like a very long talk, because I wanted to know if I would like to continue like on the same path, just starting from zero, or if you would like to discuss also about Android right now. Maybe you already know about variable declaration function, and what you wanted was how to build Android applications. But I just wanted to start from these basics, because there may also be people who wanted to know, who have never done Kotlin or have never done Java before, so that they can get these basics. And if you need to get in depth, like tomorrow, we can try to build an application. But yeah, if you have any question, I feel like you can ask, or if you'd like me to talk about object-oriented programming.
Okay, I think there's no one with any question. Someone is like pass, so there is no question. You can proceed great. with orientation. Then after that, we can later on just have some small touch on how to create a function practically, such that some members, that's what they like. If someone has a question, please feel free to ask. Please unmute.
Yeah.
Just please feel free to ask.
I can ask. I think it is my fellow Congolese. I don't know if
yes.
Can you? Okay, I hope you'll ask a question in English instead of French.
Yes, I can speak in English.
Okay, good.
Okay. Hi everyone. So if I would like to ask if you can have some kind of resources for beginners. Which kind of resources you can recommend us to follow if we want to learn in deeper Kotlin?
Okay, that's a great question. I think I will share my slides after the meet, but I'll also try to send some books. For me, one of the best way of learning is doing practice, but also reading books or the official documentation. I can suggest you a tutorials because most of them are just based on the official documentation, but there is also this book called Kotlin in Action, which was written by the Kotlin the people who built Kotlin. So this I feel is the best book on learning Kotlin. Yeah.
Thanks.
Monsieur Kalume, actually, how do you read the other name? Yves or Vez?
Eve,
I
Please.
think there
like,
is a question. There is questions on the chat.
okay, great.
Yeah, there's a question here by my sister. This is Lois here saying, what would you recommend for a beginner, Kotlin or Java? Because actually it's one of the
Okay,
most
that's a
common
good
questions.
question. Like, even for senior, even for beginners, I will just recommend using Kotlin because Kotlin was built to just to help developers build better applications without having headache. And if you are a beginner, this is even the best reason to start with Kotlin because Java will just give you headache and you will just give up. So just start with Kotlin. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm asking this is Ronnie. I'm still Ronnie asking. Is it possible like to write your code like once in Kotlin and it runs on both the platform, other platforms like web and other devices minus any much changes?
Yeah, this is a good question. And yeah, this is the actual topic of Kotlin right now. It's called Kotlin multi-platform. In fact, you can write your Kotlin code and compile it for different platforms. Unlike Flutter or React Native, the compiled code will be a native one. So you can build native applications for iOS, for Android, for web, for desktop, from one code base with Kotlin, and all the applications will be native ones. So yeah, this is not cross-platform, but it's called native multi-platform development. Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. So,
Hello. I have a question.
okay.
I came late, so I'm Tek Ayuan. My question is that are we going to like in the next 2 days? Are we going to deal with Kotlin only, or we shall touch some bits of uh, Android like HTML or Jetpack Compose? Because I just came now.
Okay, thank you. So that's a great question. Just give me a few minutes. I try to deal with something. Sorry.
Like to get back to you, Mr. Thai. Is it Mr. Kai? Kai? Sorry, I'm just not good at people's names.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
to deal with some family stuff, but I'm back. Sorry. So yeah, the question was from Tiak. Oh, nice to meet you again, man. So yeah, I hope. So I hope we will not only have 2 sessions, but maybe another week or another month we can try to. If I have some free time, we can try to discuss about Android or try to build something together. I feel it will be something fun we can do. Instead of just talking about the basics of Kotlin, we can also try to get in depth and see how we can build things with on Android using Jetpack Compose, or we can also build Kotlin multi-platform applications. Yeah, but just a matter of time. Yeah. Okay.
I think there are no more questions. We can proceed.
Okay, great. So let's just take a short introduction about on object-oriented programming. So with object-oriented programming, we try to represent our values inside our program like objects, like we can represent them as real world objects. So instead of having, for example, separated variables to represent a user, instead of having his name as a different variable, his last name or his age as a different variable, we can just put them together inside what we call a class, and the class will represent the user or the person. And as I said, a class is a set of attributes. We can also add functions to this class. This function will be called method. And an instance of, let's say I'm trying to represent a person in my code, I will call it a class, but an instance of this class will be called an object. So it is just a class with values. So Eve may be an object of the class person, and Eve have some attributes like age, name, and class. We can just say class. You can have a string attribute called name and boolean called married or not. Right now it is no. And you can also have some method with which can do some operations. They can access these variables, and this person can have an instance which is called an object also. So this instance can have value. We can have name, which is Oleg, and if he is married or not. And we have this function called greet. And there is a notion of abstraction where when we are building applications using object-oriented programming, and abstraction is one of the most important concepts about that, because we even do object-oriented programming, or called OOP, because we need abstraction in our program. So it just about what variable we show to the other part of the program. Let's say I don't want people to modify a variable. I can just hide it inside a class, and only this class will modify it. And we also have this notion of encapsulation, and we can hide some implementation of functions, for example, from outside of the class, and we can represent your object as a black box. And also, you can have a kind of interface from your object, and someone can just call your object. And if you are working, let's say you are working in a team, someone will just use your class as a black box, as I already said, and you'll have just interface. An interface is just a set of method and object and properties that can be accessed, that can be read by another class or another part of our program. Okay. So there may be some confusion about abstraction and encapsulation. And abstraction is about like what other can see and how they can interact with like the object we have created. And the encapsulation is how the object responds to message that are coming from outside. So most of the programming language, we have like visibility attributes like public, private, and protected. That means and internal. So the public is just a method or a property which can be accessed by different parts of our program. And we can also have a private method which only the actual class will have access to. And protected means a class can have children that can be inherited by other classes, and only this class can access these functions or properties. And we can also have internal. Internal just hide values at the module level. So right now I don't feel like it is important to explain that, but you can also have different modules inside an application, like packages for those who have built up with Java. So instead of packages, we can have modules. So inheritance is a concept in which one class can inherit, can have the same methods, can share methods with another class. Let's say I have a class, let's say I have a class person, and I also want to create a class called children. A child, for example, a child is a person, or a woman is a person, so she can inherit from person methods and properties, but she will also have her own properties. So this is called inheritance. It is like your father has some money, and by definition his money is yours, but yeah, depend. And the class that is being inherited is called parent class, and the new class is the derived one, which is called a child class. And yeah, the subtyping like is just one object can belong to several classes at the same time, can have different type at the same time. I will show you later that in Kotlin we can have different, in most of the programming language we can have different parent class, but we can have an hierarchy of one class at the time, inheriting properties from a different class and being a parent of another one. And this is an example of Eleanor, which is a student, but she's also a woman. She may also be a person, because she's also a person, so she can have different types, but each type is a child of another one. She can't have different type at the same level. So this is just a long example. I feel like I will just share with you the slides so that you can read them. I don't like theories. And this is an example of subtyping. As you can see, one class can only have one direct parent, and this parent can also have some parent. Yeah. And by that I mean we can also have what we call polymorphism. As I said, Eleanor is a person, but she's also a woman. So if we have a function which takes a woman as parameters, we can pass Eleanor, but if we also have a function that takes a person as parameter, we can also pass Eleanor. So this function can also take different type which are child of the person class. This is called polymorphism. You can see it in practice when we try to have a small live coding session. And this is also a lot of theories. So in Kotlin now, to declare a class, we'll just use the class keyword, and we can just create an instance with the class. There is a question, right? Is there any question?
Yes. Mukeba has a question.
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to know, is there a difference between multiple inheritance and polymorphism?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. Polymorphism comes from multiple inheritance. Let's say I have a type which is called let's say student or animal, an animal, and I have a function which I have something to do with an animal. And if I want an animal, I can get a cat, I can get a dog, I can get a whatever animal it is. And this is called polymorphism because an animal can be in different forms. Poly just means multiple, and form just means forms. Like, yeah, you can have different forms, multiple forms for just one type because it has a lot of children. Like my presentation is not being shared. Oh, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's just do that. Okay. Okay. So to instantiate this class, to create an instance of this class, we'll just use this way of doing. We'll just use parentheses to create an instance of a class. And a class can have what we call a constructor. This parenthesis means a constructor. It can also have different parameters which we'll need to provide when we're trying to build our class. So like this is a point, and when we create a second constructor, we need to provide some value to this primary constructor. And you can have several you can have just multiple constructors as we want, and it will just the compiler will just pick one based on the argument we'll provide to at the Kyle site. And this is also some theories I just put. And we also have this init block, which is called when you create an instance of a class. And you can see most of the time you will see them when you are trying to build an Android application. So when a screen is represented by a class, let's say when a user navigates to a class, to a screen, which is a class, we will construct it, and you can call some operation inside this init block to, for example, get data from the backend and show it on the screen. So this will just be called at when the class is instantiated. Okay, so let's get back to the OOP abstraction principle. And one of the key of abstractions tools is interfaces. An interface may be treated like a contract between, the class implementing it and the outside world. And the method defined in an interface must be all implemented by the class in Kotlin. And so it will be checked at compile time. So if you don't implement one of these functions, your code won't even compile. And yeah, in Kotlin, if you have done like PHP and other programming language, you have abstract class. In Kotlin, for interfaces can't have values or properties. They can only have method. And if you want to have some properties, you will need to use an abstract class. And this is just the kind, so if you want to use a class which implements this interface, you just need to provide the interface as the type, just to respect this contract between the class which implements it and the one which is calling it. It will just call method from this interface, and if you provide a correct instance, it will under the root, it will call the method from the class which implements them. And so don't forget about encapsulation. Encapsulation modifiers are important. So for class, you can have private, protected, and intern and public modifiers. So by default, everything is public. You can also have internal, which is at the module level. So in the example above, my cat here is a child of regular cat. And if you pay attention to this pop here, it cannot be accessed because pop is private. So we can't access to it. It is only accessible inside this abstract class because it is defined as private. But you can see we have protected. You can access a protected value and override it. So by overriding it, I mean you can rewrite it. And if you call this, you try to access to this value, it will under the root get this one because yeah, it is already overridden. So to extend on non-abstract class, that base class should have the open, I forget to add an open. So a base class needs to have an open keyword in front of it. If it is not abstract, you need to add open, because by default in Kotlin you can't inherit from a regular class. You need to add abstract keywords in front of it or to add open keywords. And so let's return to the polymorphism principle and implement this simple example. So here I have a domestic animal. We can have dog and cat in our type hierarchy. And if I have a list which takes domestical animals as values, I can pass both dog and cat as values. So if, for example, this one was just a list of cat, I couldn't pass dogs. But because polymorphism means a domestical animal can have different forms. It may be dog, it may be cat. I can pass most of them, and I can check their type inside my function. But here I just need to call this pet method, which is already implemented on both classes, because it was in this interface, which is a contract between the class and the Kyle site. So that just means if you are an animal, you must have the pet function. And previously we saw that class property can be defined via primary constructor. You can see that we can define them inside this. But yeah, we can also define them inside your class instead of just the constructor. You can also define them inside the class. You are not required to only define them here inside the parentheses. And in addition to the visibility modifiers, so this open keyword means that this class can have some children. This keyword finally means that these methods can't be overridden. So you will just keep them as they are. You can just write them in your child class. And yeah, I feel like this is an advanced concept which is called operator overriding. If you are using programming language like PHP, JavaScript, or Java, you have, so in all of the programming language, you have arithmetical operators like additions, multiplications, and all the remaining one. In Kotlin, you can override them. You can say how your class will behave if you do the additions between this one and another one. So for example, I have a class example, and I override how it will behave when we do an addition with it. So if I create an instance of example and I use this operator, which means for integers, that means I want to add the first one to the second one. But for my class, which I just created, my custom class, I can just set the behavior for that. This is called operator overriding. And we also have, this is one of, I think this is my favorite feature of Kotlin. It's called extension function. We can add a function to a class from outside this class. You can see here, if we define a class, we need to specify functions inside this bracket. But in Kotlin, you can also add a new function outside a class. That means if you are getting a class from a library, or you are trying to get a code from a different module, you are not required to have access to this code in order to add a function to it. You will just need to use the fun keyword, specify the type, and you add a dot and the name of your functions. And you can, but yeah, you can't access the private properties of this class, but you will just have access to the public one, so you can do your operations instead of repeating yourself. You just add a new functions, a new method to this class and add a new behavior without having access to the code base or the source. And this is also an interesting concept of Kotlin, which is called data class. So in most of the programming language you will meet, you have class to represent data and represent operations. But in Kotlin, if you just need to, represent data or represent a real world object, you can use data class just to transport data. And by default, it has some methods that are already implemented. So you can compare two classes. Let's say I have a user with a name and age. I can compare it with another user with a name and a age. So if they have the same values, they are equals. And we also have this hash code for hashing. For this is an hashing for those who are interested in hashing stuff. And you can also print it by using the toString method, which is there by default. So I feel like, yeah, the next concept we first need to digest this, the ones we just learned, and I think we can continue for the other ones tomorrow. Or yeah, so if you have any question, can you just open your mic and ask it?
Yeah, thank you, our Google expert. Someone is asking, we aren't building any app tonight? No. Today, at least, we wanted to have the fundamentals, someone to understand the OPP. Yeah, tomorrow, that's when we're going to do all that. So at least someone should understand abstraction, polymorphism, encapsulation, at least something. At least you should see that this is how a function is, at least written, eh? Yeah. Okay, any questions? Feel free to ask, members. Feel free to ask. So before we proceed again, Mr. Kalume. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
My question is how OOPS helps in Android development.
Please, can you repeat your question?
Yeah. My question is how OOPS is help in Android development.
Did someone get it? Because I don't know if it is my network or something, but I feel like I don't hear him correctly.
Yes, we can't hear you, brother. Brother, could you please get into the chat and then write it down?
Okay.
Write it down, please. We didn't hear you very well. Rahul, please get it into the chat. Write it down, then we shall get to understand what you're trying to ask.
I think he was asking about the object-oriented concepts, that how they help in Android.
Oh, okay. How?
Great. That's a great question. So in Android, we can say that first you need to know that object-oriented programming is a paradigm which helps us to build better applications, better program. And when you are trying to build an Android app, the people who decided of toolings and all the things you will be using have designed the framework to be using object-oriented programming paradigm. So everything you will build inside the application will be a class. For example, a screen, your activity, what we call an activity, will be a class. Even with Jetpack Compose, even though you will have functions as screens element, but everything will be inside a class. So whatever you'll be writing, you will start with a class. This will also help you to build better applications, but by default you will design everything as a class. Yeah. Okay, component. Yeah, I know this was one of the advanced concept about component, but I feel like we may need to discuss about it tomorrow because if I start, I don't know if I'll finish it right now. But yeah, component is a function for on data class which help us to, we call it, to do this the structuring declarations. I don't know if you saw when we talked about loops, you can get index and items at the same time and get it as a pair. So maybe we can tomorrow we can try to do a live coding session to just to try to digest all the information we just get, and we'll see all those operators. Yeah, I feel like this will be the best way because even me, I don't like so much theories because they can go over my head also. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Madam Lois. Lois, feel free to ask, please. Just unmute.
Okay. So tomorrow, since we are beginning to code, I wanted to ask what software should we install? VS Code or Android Studio?
Okay, maybe you can start with, if you are learning Kotlin, you can start with by using IntelliJ IDEA, and after that, if you want to build Android application, you need to install Android Studio. But first, I will just recommend you to practice Kotlin using IntelliJ IDEA, because if you directly start with Android Studio, you may get lost if you don't have the basics about Kotlin.
Just and then also additional and small addition to that, IntelliJ by JetBrains. It's a light tool. Should I call it a light tool or light software? And most people who have computers or systems that are a little bit light, it is very favorable. Because if you start running Android Studio, you know how heavy it is and requires a lot of space and internet. But when it comes to JetBrains, I mean IntelliJ by JetBrains, life gets simple and much better. Though there is a site by Kotlin, by JetBrains, that's the Kotlin, is it player? Forgotten the name? But there is a platform that you can also use. Kotlin player, is it compiler? Officially by JetBrains. Okay, the slides are going to be here. It's called the Kotlin player, Kotlin lang. The site is Kotlin. It is play.kotlin lang. So for this site is good, but the only challenge with it is that when it comes to some, he has even shared it already. Thank you so much. So when it comes to running some functions or operations, it also has limits. Things like let me call them as functions, like read line. If you want to print out some function, it's just basic. The one that is just shared in the chat there. This one is just basic. Yeah, this one is just basic for playing around. And then also there is the Kotlin documentation that you can also check through. It also explains everything, starting from the functions, variables, all the way to.
Yeah, maybe I also share the Kotlin in Action book. I don't know if I'm authorized to do this, but yeah, I can just share it with you instead of sharing the link to the book, so that I have already bought it, so I will just share the link with you. I'll just share the PDF with you.
Yeah, you can share the PDF in the group here. There's no problem. We trust everybody here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we trust everybody. So I think members were talking about downloading JetBrains. I don't know whether we should demo that for them because we still have some 30 minutes time. What's your view?
That will be.
Yes, please. Okay, as the sharing. So we have maybe I think let me also share it. as is sharing. Let me just see if I can share. Okay, it's the main presenter. Let me just share. Let me just share entire screen. So let me hope you're all seeing my screen. Let me hope you're all seeing my screen, members. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. So basically, you can just get IntelliJ IDE, this one here. And let me just show you how it looks like. So the one I've been using for a while, except that I've been very busy. You can even see it's not up to date. So there it is loading. Yeah, so basically this is it. This is how it opens up, and these are what I've been practicing with long time ago, because I was taking in some course from Meta Android. You can even see, so all the exercises that they were giving me and all the rest, I used to use this here. So basically, for you to download this here, you can see you can just create a new file like this here, new file, new project, Kotlin class, a file, maybe a Kotlin file. You give it a name, like maybe test. So having opened it as a test, that's when now you can start now putting your code as in the main function, just like that. Then just that kind of simple manner. Let me just write this simple one. Hello world, just like that. So that's the basic way of the Jet Compose. Sorry, not Jet Compose, JetBrains. So you can just run it from there. You run your whatever to see whether there are bugs or whatever. You just compile it from there. So it will run. But basically, if you're interested in this IntelliJ, you have to go to the official site and then download. We have the community. Is it the community version and some other edition? So it's just taking too long to load. I don't know why, but it's a light one. You can check Chrome. Let me open here Chrome. Let me see IntelliJ. So you just go to IntelliJ here. You can see IntelliJ. Here it is, IntelliJ idea. You can just download it. Yeah, so you just download it basically from here. This is the official site. I think even I can throw it in the group in the call. Let me throw it in the call here. Yes. Yeah, so yeah, so basically you can see that it had to run my hello world. My hello world just like that. So after having created that and had to run my hello world. So members, I don't know what but basically I think you've gotten it. And unlike for you can download it from there, unlike for Android Studio. Let me see if I can open here Android Studio. So Android Studio is heavy, as I was trying to tell you. So you need a PC because they're having their personal requirements. Even if minimally they tell you that it needs approximately 4 GB of RAM, according to me, I should just say it's a lie. Those guys liars, actually. They tell you, young man, get a what? What should I call it? Your PC must have minimally 8 GB. I mean 4 GB. No, that's a lie, actually. If you have a 4 GB RAM PC, it becomes very hard for you to run this Android Studio here. It becomes extremely hard and it keeps lagging and all that because it is a heavy platform. You find it's taking a lot of data, your personal data. One, when you're just opening up a package because when you're starting a project because you're downloading packages. Mr. Ogo Expert can tell better because for him he has done very many kinds of projects because he has almost more than 6 years of experience, unlike some of us who are just exploring. this stuff here. So you can start new and all that. So basically this is how Android Studio is. So you can start a new project. You can also start a Kotlin file and all that. But you find that the problem with Android Studio, it's heavy and it's overwhelming at some point. Because if you're just a starter and you have never used you have never gotten to say anything about Android Studio, it will be so huge to an extent that you'll be seeing a lot of stuff now, like the templates, the this and that, maybe no activity, this and this. So you have to understand what this has, what that has, and all that kind of stuff. But basically, that's what I can talk about these two tools. That is Jet Compose, IntelliJ, and then Android Studio. So Android Studio is also still built on Jet Compose. Actually, it's Jet Compose that built it. If you make research about it, I think Mr. Kalume can tell us better. Some members, I think, allow me pause this also, this here, and then get back, and I get back to you in the chat there. So anyway, at the moment, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, because we still have, I think, our 30 minutes. We still have our 30 minutes. Please feel free to ask. If you have any question, please feel free to ask, because we have our big man still within us. Still with us. We have our big man with us. So any questions so far? If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, because he's the expert and he's the person who is more experienced than anyone here on ground. So another thing, maybe my question also goes to our boss. Let me just stop sharing for now. Mr. Kalume, actually, I saw your post, one of your posts some time back. Someone is asking which group were they meaning that the PDF. So anyway, the PDF is going to be shared soon. Don't worry, it's going to be shared. And the notes plus the recording of today's session, I'll put it on YouTube, such that you can follow along. We have a YouTube channel, and whoever registered from the main registration form, the other side, using the Google platform, you'll get everything, because at least I'll link you up there. Someone is asking me, is there a WhatsApp group? No, at the moment, no. WhatsApp groups are always too many. But anyway, getting back to my question, we're going to answer that. Getting back to my question, recently things are changing so much, Mr. Kalume, sir. AI is becoming AI currently. AI is becoming AI, and AI has come to stay, as I can say, actually. Because I'm just from some other session of Superbase, like building on Superbase. So we got to learn that currently you can build anything on AI. For you guys who haven't yet tried out, please go and try out. Platforms are there. I don't know if maybe I should even sample you right now, because this is also a learning experience. It's true. This is a learning experience as coders. We're having tools like Casa AI currently, which are on ground. Casa AI, I don't know whether you've heard of it. I think, let me just share my screen and I show you how some of these tools are really so interesting. It's good also to be up to date, because since we are with an expert, I wanted him to also have a great view about it. Let me open it here. So we have this tool here. It's called Casa AI. It just looks like VS Code. So it just looks like VS Code itself. It's called Casa. I think you're all seeing this is Casa AI here. So this here, I demoed this with my friend while I was at MOOC. That was on Friday. So I had told him about Casa AI, what it can do, and all that stuff. So it has AI agents in here. So as you can see, all I did here was just to prompt it, just that my limit has reached. I just said, help me come up with a nice, fully working game. The snake game should move from up and down using the up and down arrows and should be responsive, and the snake should be eating the fruits. Use HTML and CSS, full stop. I ran the code and all the files here were put here. As you can see, all the files were put here, all the code generated straight away to the JavaScript. Oh, okay, let me accept these changes here. Let me accept the file. So, and then here, this was the CSS file here. So when I run this live here, members, just notice this. This was just done in just a second. And just a blink of an eye. That was just a small prompt. So when I run this here, you can see that is just a small snake there. That's the snake that was started in just a second. You can go and try out these tools, members. So there's also another tool called let me just end that. There's another tool called V0. There's another tool, members, called V0. It's good to know. V0.dev. This one I don't have it, but basically this is it here. V0.dev. It's also a tool that guys have been using to develop UIs, fully working UIs within a second. So things are changing. So this is where my question comes in. Mr. Our Google expert, please, what view do you have about these AIs here? Have they come to replace our jobs? We as learners, or they're here to help us learn? I don't know even how I can phrase this question. Am I still audible, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm still audible. So my question was, are we still safe as programmers? Because I've reached a point where I have some of my friends who are like, why should really someone now learn how to code if currently we are having what we call vibe coding? I also wanted us to talk about this. Currently we are having what we call vibe coding. Someone doesn't even know a single piece of code. Like I have a friend of mine, we're working on some project about augmented reality. Yeah? Things. Hope you understand what augmented reality is all about. Augmented, like you're putting something that is virtual in the real world, So, but I find that someone doesn't know even a single basic HTML, but someone is developing a fully working platform in just a blink of an eye, in just a second. So, what view do you have about this? Sorry, I'm making it in form of an interview, and yet it's not what I had organized in the first place. So, what view do you have about this, sir?
Okay, that's a good question, because AI is making a lot of change at the industry. But for Android, to be honest, right now I don't feel in danger because of AI as an Android developer, because right now it is making me very productive. But I have tried also with JS and a lot of frameworks, but I've also tried it with Kotlin, and it is not that good for building Android applications or mobile applications with Kotlin, because when we are training an AI, we are training it on real code base. It seems like they don't have enough data to train AI to build Android applications. I've tried several times to build Android application with Cursor, but I couldn't make a good application just by doing vibe coding. Maybe I'm bad at prompt engineering, but it was not that good as Java with JavaScript or Next.js or Vue.js. So this is my take on this as an Android developer. For me, I don't feel in danger. Even for web developers, right now I feel like you need to learn programming. You need to be a good web developer, because there are people out there who will build things they don't even understand, and at some point it will be unsustainable to continue doing vibe programming when you have a big project. So they will need people with good knowledge to maintain and refactor their code bases. Because yeah, I've seen so many tweets on X, and people are complaining about Castle modifying their code base and doing change that they can't reverse. So this is my take on this. Right now, I don't feel in danger. I feel safe and productive.
Yes. Actually, thank you for that answer, because in the first place, when you listen about people talking about AI, because in the first place, I'm also part of the AI Young Leaders under ITU, that's the International Telecommunication Union, just advocating for AI, how we can use AI better. So AI indeed has come to replace some people's jobs. I can't lie. That's the reason why Google itself, you hear that it's laying off workers. I don't know, as of maybe this month, they laid off some good number of workers and all that. Just because, not that they're just replacing with AI and all that, but maybe efficiency in some areas. So if someone doesn't adopt, make your work easy, like the way how he said very well, that it has made him more productive. So implying that it's what I also learned today when I went out for a super base workshop, study workshop at Tech Boost Hub. We're using AI to make us more efficient. But the thing is, we must, at least someone should be knowing some code. You must be knowing how at least to code a bit, because AI is still not yet what? That good. Because you find there are always errors here and there. So they need someone to debug them. Now, if I've developed maybe some platform using Angular, or maybe React, or maybe TypeScript, and I don't know even what that app is all about. Maybe I don't know the piece of code that is being generated there by AI. If at all there is, I one time tried that actually. I one time tried vibe coding some system that I wanted to implement for my final year project. That was a temperature and dust monitoring system. Just by using Cursor AI. I think even if you allow me share my screen, members, we have to share this as something that is reality. We're currently dealing with reality. This is real life stuff here. So when we get back here, let me see new window. Well, where is it? So I haven't yet played around with TypeScript at all, even if it is React. I haven't, but I wanted to try out and see how far I would reach. So I reached to a point where this was me using AI to the most. Hope you understand. Using AI to the most peak of it. So I had created a template, like a screen. Allow me, members, you just forgive me, but all this is like learning. This is a learning process, because at least we're talking about Kotlin here. So I had designed some screen here in Figma. So I wanted that screen to be implemented. So I want then for you to understand what I'm trying to mean here. So I had made this screen here. Yes. So I wanted it to be used like for final projects like IoT. So I wanted you to have that beautiful site. Like, what if the site looks like that, and then something like this? Let me even just run this small prototype here. This is just a prototype, don't worry. So I just designed that. So having designed that, I was like, no, let me vibe code this and I see how it goes. But reality to be told, I faced the challenges and I realized that indeed, yes, vibe coding is not good. It is good for someone to first go and learn something. So this was it here. It's the temperature and dust monitoring. This was the temperature and dust monitoring, whatever that I had made, I had designed. So on getting back to Cursor AI, I prompted it, took in these photos and all that here. So this was it here. So after a long 3 days actually of prompting and AI debugging itself, as you can listen. So I had to, this is what came out here. Let me just finish up this. Let me run this, please. Runs in dev. So I'm just starting this. Let me hope it runs. So I'm running this locally. So this was eventually what came out. I wanted something else and I got something else in return. So, and yet there are also bugs. Me ensuring that this thing here runs, it also took me almost years, if not hours, not even years, it took me days to ensure that this thing here was really working to the fullest. So I realized that, members, for real, and truth to be told, someone really has to learn this from scratch. We have to put in all our effort, learn something, otherwise you will run into bugs. So as Mr. Kalume there had said, our good expert, thank you very much actually for the information. So members, I don't know if you're having any questions, because for me I had asked him my question about AI and he has answered it, and indeed I've proven it that it's right. Yes, someone is saying AI is good while working on it logically. Yes. So it's good that we should have to take in AI, but at least you must be knowing also something. So, Mr. Kalume, I don't know whether you have something else to say. If you're having any questions, members, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if there is a group. You can just add me if someone has a question, but yeah, I also shared my link to all my profiles. So right now I'm not that available active on LinkedIn and X, but yeah, I'll do that soon. Sorry for the baby. So yeah, just add me to the group and I can answer all the questions.
Yes. So I think our big man is still around. I think I'll just create a group. I don't know. I'm a little bit engaged right now. Mr. Nasasu, are you there? Yes, Mr. Ben, please feel free to ask. Yes, Ben, ask please.
I have background noise where I am, so I've typed in the chat.
Okay, fine, that's fine. So, Mr. Nasasu, please go to I'm a bit engaged right now. Please go to our group the other side, create for us the Kotlin developers group, and then share it here.
Kotlin.
Yes, create it and then throw it here such that at least.
Android with Kotlin, right?
Yes. Yeah. In our community there. So he's going to put it there such that we have our expert within us, such that in case anyone has any question, any help, he will be willing to help us. And then also it will be also okay for our session of tomorrow and the rest of the sessions that will be coming up, such that maybe if people are still more interested in Kotlin, we can see if we can have it like weekly, depending on people's choice. Because I started this as a 2-day session. So if maybe there is still demand for people like who are interested in pushing it in, he's here. We can get to know much more, since we are still having another session now for real, hands-on. Today we just wanted to get the theoretical session, such that we can, maybe later on we can get to know, are you available? So if he tells us yes, and then we can be meeting maybe every Tuesday, maybe twice a week, or maybe every weekend, which is also something nice. So Mr. Kello is saying, okay, Mr. Nasasu has created the WhatsApp. Please join in. So join in the WhatsApp link, please. You can join in. Mr. Nasasu, you can ping that WhatsApp message. So Mr. Kalume, there is a question here. Someone is like, my question is, how is the experience? How is the experience? What's the experience journey of becoming an expert in Android Studio? So,
okay, that's a good question. So first, I would like to emphasize that actually I don't. the Google Developer Expert Program is not even about being an expert or being someone who has a lot of knowledge, just about sharing what you are learning and what you know with the community. So to be a Google Developer Expert, you need just to first learn and work as an Android developer, and then start sharing what you know with other. It may be by creating content online, like videos, blog posts, and speaking at tech conferences. And if you do that regularly, you may need to become recognized as a Google Developer Expert, so you can just ping right to one of the existing Google Developer Experts, or you can reach out to a Google employee so that he can recommend you, and you can do all your interviews to become a Google Developer Expert. So that's all. You don't need to read 100 books and be a, I don't even, maybe they could just change the name instead of being Google Developer Expert. They can just call it like Google Developer Influencer or Teacher, because it's mostly about sharing and teaching than being an actual guru or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So you also had another question of how can you become an expert, like generally? An Android expert, if at all we leave the case is the case of being just a Google Developer Expert. What did you pass through to become an expert the way you are there? Because you're getting a recommendation by a Google employee, personally, as how you have been saying, it's not something, or being recommended to be one and passing the interviews by Google, it's not something that anyone what undergoes, because some people apply to become Google Developer Experts and they fail. So what has been your experience, and what advice you have to give to us, we the young generation who are just starting into coding, who have a dream of becoming developers?
Okay, that's a good question. So actually, I was recommended by a GD from Kenya. So I used to write a lot of blog posts and doing a lot of tweets on Twitter before it became X. So I used to just share what I was working on, and I used to build small applications and sharing them. It was just every week I used to post about something I was building with Jetpack Compose. And then I got the message from, his name is Arun Wangereka. He reached out to me and asked me if I would like to become a GD. And yeah, I just applied and I created what we call a community CV. It is just a set of data about all the conferences you have done. If you have talked to a conference, you can just explain what you talked about, what was the audience, and so on. Also share links to a blog post. And for the interviews, it was just about, I was just asked question about communities, what I like the most about communities, and why I wanted to become a GDE. And after that, there was there was a second interview which was about technical stuff. I was just asked to explain technical concepts so I was given a task, like an example, a situation. For example, someone who is trying to learn Android, how I can advise him about learning. So it's just this kind of stuff. They just try to assess if you are able to explain something to someone who doesn't have advanced knowledge, just about explaining stuff. Yeah, and even the interviews is about that. So if you get rejected, it may be because you don't have so many contributions to the community, because maybe you just started this year and at the same year you applied to become a GT. Maybe they need you to do the same, I think, for 2 years, and be genuine with that, because they don't want someone who just want to become a GD. They want someone who is passionate about tech communities, and yeah, they will try to assess to see if you are genuine or if you just want to be recognized as a GD. Yeah.
What should we do this? Oh, that's fine. That's fine. We'll throw that away. Cannot throw it away. Cannot. You ask them to do. So, members, any other person with any question, please, Mr. Nasasra's put in whatever WhatsApp link. Let's use that link there because all the recordings, I'll also be throwing them in here for today's session. The recording of today's session, I'll also put it in